on this computer.
There's
All
no
right.
photo.
Hey, everybody. My name is Brian. To my left is Brian, and down below me is Brian, or whichever way it happens to be on your screen. Um, this is Civil Chat. This is your opportunity to ask questions on anything civil engineering related in Autodesk software. We will do our best to answer them. We guarantee we will have an answer. It just might not be the one you're looking for. So
And
the
I
way
don't
this
know
is
what.
going to work is you ask questions and we answer them. If you don't ask questions, we're going to sit and chat about maybe the beach or soccer games or whatever we want, right? Right, Brian? Hey, that's
That's
it.
right.
Right. So, I always like to get started with showing off something. And what I want to show off today is some of the new tools in Recap. So let me go ahead and share the screen here. Share screen. I want to share
And I do
that
want to point out,
screen.
if you guys are asking questions, just make sure to put them in the question and answer pod. It's much easier for the three Brians to track questions in there rather than the chat.
Right. Yeah, that's a very good point. Thanks, Brian. All right, so I've got this beautiful site here. This was a scan. I think this was done by a drone. It might have been by, I'm sure this was done by a drone, right? But I've got this beautiful point cloud here, and what I want to do is I want to create a surface from it. But the problem I have is I don't want a surface made from the truck or the loader or the excavator or the poles or the vegetation or any of that fun stuff. And so in Recap, we now have the ability, and this is in Recap 2024. So if you don't have Recap 2024, you go get it. We now have the ability to classify points. So under the little home button, I'm not clicking, I'm just mousing over it. There we go. I have the ability to do an automatic ground classification. So all it does is classify ground shots. It doesn't classify anything else, right? So I'll go ahead and run this. It's going to ask, hey, how do you want them to be processed? So I'm going to do optimal. If you want, you can come down here into custom and change some of these values, but I'm just going to leave it set to optimum and I will start processing here. And so what this is going to do, this is going to go try to identify what the points that are ground points and pull out all the points that aren't ground points. And it's going to classify them for us. Now, when I've done this in the past, it did take a few minutes to do this. So we might have to come back to this a little bit later during the civil chat to see it actually finish. It usually, it's typically got hung up at about 95%, and it took like 5 minutes to finish processing. But basically what it's doing is it's finding all of your ground shots and trying to weed out all the points that aren't ground shots. Now, even after doing that, you're going to end up with a massive point cloud. Another new tool that's been added here is the ability to decimate your point cloud. Now, I know that sounds crazy. Oh, we're going to decimate, but when you're working in Civil 3D, you want to keep your surfaces under 1 million points. You get up to 1 million points and larger, it starts writing out those silly MMS files, and it's just annoying, and I hate them, and everybody hates them, and there's really no need for a civil engineering project to have a surface with more than 1 million points. More than 100,000 points is probably pushing it, but I always try to limit my surfaces to about 900,000 points. And so once this is done classifying, we can come back and then decimate it so we can keep it underneath that 1 million point threshold. And like I said, I typically try to go for about 900,000 points. Brian asks, is this what they mean by Autodesk AI? Could be. I don't know if this is using AI or not, but it might
Well, they
be.
actually had on the BIM 360 sites for a while, you could actually take the recap web version. For a while, they're actually go in there and you could actually say remove points. Remove, what do they call it? I forget, it was in beta, but it would go in and start comparing multiple scans for like building scans and realize like, oh, this ladder wasn't only in one of the shots, not three, and would automatically start removing points that weren't in multiple shots.
Oh,
So
nice.
it was removing people and
So
like
like if somebody
boxes.
walked by or a car drove by.
Exactly. So it was actually really, really cool. And they had that on the cloud version for a while, and then they just took it off. And I'm like, where did that go? It was really freaking cool.
Hey folks, we need questions.
Yeah, we do.
It's your job to ask questions. It's our job to answer the questions, except for this first one, which I throw out while we're waiting for y'all to post up questions. So y'all need to ask some questions before we get too far into this. So while this is processing, I'm going to switch over to Civil 3D because, like I said, this will take a few moments. And I decided to show this off like, what, 5 minutes before we started, Brian?
I don't even think it was that. I think it was
Yeah.
literally about a minute and a half.
Yeah. So what I was going to originally show in Civil 3D was transparent commands, because I think transparent commands are some of the most underutilized tools in all of Civil 3D. They're absolutely fantastic. I have no idea why my task pane keeps popping up there. All right. So let's say you have a plat that you're trying to recreate, and I need to draw lines at a specific bearing and distance. So I have my tools up here on the transparent ribbon tab that will assist me with this. And basically, the concept behind the transparent commands is when AutoCAD, whether it's Civil 3D, Map 3D, Civil 3, AutoCAD, Civil, any of those programs, is asking you to pick a point on the screen, you can calculate said pick point using a transparent command. All right, so let me go ahead and open up a drawing that has a profile in it. This is probably one of my favorite ones. Let me open up that corridor drawing that I just actually closed out of. And let's say, for example, I have, let's pretend, actually, let me do a different drawing. I don't like this one for this. Let's do the quantities. This one will work. All right. Do I have a profile view in this drawing? I don't. So let me create a quick profile view for this alignment. So we'll go home, profile view, create profile view. I don't know the name of it, so we'll pick it from the drawing. It's main road. Hopefully it has profiles in it. Sweet. Okay. I'll go ahead and create the profile view. And I don't know, we'll just throw it about there. So, all right. So what I've got is I've got a borehole. So let me bring in a borehole symbol here real quick. There we go. So I've got a borehole, for example. Why is this going so slow? This is odd.
Because you got recap running in the background.
Oh, that's probably very true. All right, we'll call this BH1. First time I started looking at borehole logs, I was like, I wonder why they give them all my initials. All right. But what I want to do is I want to place a marker or the stick log in the profile view at the correct station as this and at the elevation of the surface as this borehole is. All right. So I actually have wrong flaps, some stick logs here. So let me go ahead and insert this. So I'm in a command that's asking me to pick a point for the insertion of this. Right now, this is at a 1-to-1 scale. These are not annotative blocks because that doesn't work for boreholes. But it's asking me to pick a point on the screen. And I want to pick a point, and I want to use the Civil 3D stuff to calculate the station and the elevation of the pick point in that profile view based off of the information here in the plan. So I'm going to come up to the transparent commands, and I'm going to use this one here, which is the profile, station, and elevation from plan. Now, if you're like me, I'm a keyboard junkie. I like to type my commands. Now, when you mouse over a command on the ribbon, it gives you what the command is, but you'll notice there is an apostrophe in front of that. So the apostrophe says, hey, this is going to be a transparent command, which is basically a command that you're running inside of another command. So I'm going to use profile, station, elevation from plan. It's going to ask me to select the profile view. So I'll go grab the profile view. This and also selects the alignment. It's going to ask me to select the surface. So I'll grab the surface. And now it's going to ask me to pick a point. All right, so I'm going to snap to the center of this borehole. And when I pick that, it calculates the station and the elevation from the surface, and it places that here in my drawing for me. So you can see it there. And if I change this to an appropriate scale, so 1:60 drawing, you can see it comes in at the correct location, the correct elevation, and it's just beautiful. right? So that's an example of using the profile or a transparent command. Another example, as I was going to show before, is if I have to recreate a boundary based off of a plat where you've got all of the thences. Thence north 45 degrees, 12 minutes, 13 seconds west at 437.21 feet. Thence, right? So we have the, let's see, there it is, bearing and distance. So again, this is asking you to calculate a pick point based off of data that's in the drawing. So if I run this to start with, it says, no, it doesn't work. It has to be called from within another command. So I'm going to start the polyline command. And the polyline command is now asking me to pick a start point. Now, if I were to do the bearing and distance transparent command right now, I'm using a bearing and distance to calculate said start point. Right? So maybe you have a, tie to a corner. You can use it to calculate where your closure is going to start. But in this case, I'm just going to pick a spot. So I pick a spot, and now I'm going to invoke the bearing and distance transparent command. So I bearing and distance and ask, which quadrant do you want to go into? So northeast is quadrant 1, southeast is quadrant 2, southwest is quadrant 3, and then northwest is quadrant 4. So you can use your keyboard and type in those quadrants, or you can just pick within the quadrant. So I'm going to go northeast. So I just pick within the northeast quadrant. And now it's going to ask me for the bearing. So I want this bearing to be 45 degrees, 45 minutes, 45 seconds. So I'm going to type in 45.4545. That's 45 degrees, 45 minutes, 45 seconds. Or is it? One thing you should always do is never trust me. If I tell you something in Civil 3D, you should go verify for yourself that I'm giving you good information. Because this looks wrong. This looks like I'm putting in 45.4545 degrees, but I'm not. And I'll show you here later. All right, so I'm going to put in that, and now it's asking for the distance. So I'm going to go, I don't know, say 180 feet. And it just picked that point in the drawing for that point of the polyline command. And now I'm still in the transparent command, so I can continue to pick additional points, right? So now I want to go down. I'm going to go 45.4545 again, or 200 feet this time. All right, so I've put in those two. Now remember what I said, always verify, trust but verify. I think that'd be a good thing to do here. So I'm going to come in here, I'm going to annotate this line. All right, so I'm gonna do line and curve, do multiple segments, and we'll do bearing over distance. That looks good. And so you can see that it is indeed 45 degrees, 45 minutes, 45 seconds. Now here's a question. What if you didn't want to input it that way? What if you wanted to put in 45.4545 degrees? Where would you go change that? Look for that in the chat.
I'm going to say that's going to be in your settings.
Yeah, but where? All right, let's see if recap is done yet. No, it's still running. So like I said, this takes a few minutes, especially on this data set. The smaller your point cloud, the faster it goes, obviously. But we'll come back to this throughout the session here. All right.
So no one responded to your question. It's a civil
they're a bunch
chat
of
where
losers.
they ask questions and we answer. You can't just go flipping the script on them, Brian.
Right. Good call. All right. Do we have any questions?
Yeah, so one kind of related to what you're talking about. During your demonstration, I noticed you were clicking a customize button on your ribbon tab, and then it opened up the tool palette for you to pick a block. How did you set that up?
So it's just you go into the CUI and you create a new ribbon tab, right? If you're not familiar with that, so CUI, CUI is short for customized user interface. And then I created a ribbon tab. And now this is under our enterprise, so our users can't go in and just willy-nilly change it. We do give them the ability to create their own custom stuff, but this is under the GEI stuff. So I'm going to open up just the GEI CUI. This is really handy if you're doing a lot of stuff with a bunch of CUI files in this interface. You can select a specific CUI file to edit. All right, and so I have this was under the GEI symbols tab. Right, that's where I got it. And then it was under geotechnical, and so that was the tab that we have. So if I come down here to the panels, that was on the geotechnical panel. No, it wasn't geotechnical. I thought it was geotechnical. Or was it? Exploration, sorry. Explorations, large format, and then this is the command. And the format for the command, so we actually have a little custom thing, but there's just a command that you can run that will open up a specific tool palette and then switch or open up your tool palettes and set you to a specific tool palette on there. Now, we've got ours set up a little different than most folks do. So the way I've got my tool palette set up, so let me pull this out. If you'll notice, we don't have any palette groups, right? In here right now, we've got everything that's dealing with explorations, right? So let me go ahead and keep that open, right? So if I click on, borings and test pits, you can see it takes me to that tab. If I come down here to the wells, it takes me to the wells tab, right? But what happens if I need to switch to something else? There are no other groups. So if I come over here, say, for example, general symbols under survey symbols, you'll see all the tabs have changed, right? How did I do that? Again, there are no groups here. And so the way our system is set up is I have in our CAD support folder, common tool palettes, right? I have folders for each of our groups, all right? So if I come under Civil Utilities Line Works, you can see here is that specific palette with all, that this is the path for that palette, all right? If I come under the explorations, same concept. Here are all the palettes for that group. And the way we've got our set up is when you hit the button, it will actually go into your options and change your tool palette path. So if I come over here to files, tool palette file location, you can see it set to custom tool palettes and then the survey general. If I switch to something else, say, for example, landscape symbols, and then I go into my options, eventually, you can see it's now set to custom tool palettes. This is the one that anybody can change. That this is local to each individual user. And then this is the standard one. And you can see it's set to the GEI landscaping. Now you may ask yourself, but Brian, why did you do that? Because as far as I know, I, as a CAD manager, can't create a new palette group and send it out to everybody without resetting the profile. And so this is my workaround to avoid having to do that. The drawback is if I want to bring up the Civil 3D tools, I can't just switch it from a group. I actually have to come up here to the Civil 3D palettes and then the corridors, and I have all my corridor palettes and everything here. So again, I don't have that, but that's it in a nutshell.
And Strandberg agrees with you, says that is much easier to program that way.
Yeah.
Code that way. So kind of a follow-up to that one.
Okay.
John asked a question saying, anyone having issues with Civil 3D not changing the data shortcut working folder when opening files and the project is assigned to the DWG?
I've not heard of any issues.
That's because you're such an exemplary CAD manager. You do everything perfectly. And your users would never screw anything else up either.
Right. So basically what you're saying, John, is if I have a drawing that's associated with the project, right, and then I'm working in a different drawing that's associated with a different project, when I switch back to this drawing, the data shortcut's not changing. Does that sound correct?
And Jennifer said yes, but it was when they upgraded a project. Charlie says, yeah, they have to repath the shortcuts often. Sid says yes. Corey says it's random and he can't seem to recreate it. And John Mayo says, yes, Brian, you were correct when you swapped the drawings.
Yeah, I've not run into that personally.
And
we can
they're
try it.
associating the drawing to the project.
That's
So
what
if you
the
right click,
original question
assume
said.
so.
Yes.
Yeah,
okay,
so if
excellent.
I create a new drawing here and I
So
I do
obviously
know that
this is common. You have 5 people
Yeah.
saying yes to this.
Yeah,
my question is do they have multiple sessions going at the same time? Or is it just one AutoCAD session and they're going between drawings?
that's a
One
good
session.
question. Yeah.
Corey says
So-
one session, and John says one session between drawings.
So you have multiple drawings open, you're switching back and forth between them, and it's not changing the data. That's like I said, I've not run across that,
I find a
but I don't
similar
spend a whole
issue.
lot of time on projects. So
Gotcha. I find a similar issue whenever I just I've got multiple tabs open with drawings, like 3 or 4, and as I accidentally hover over the tab because I'm going to someplace else in the ribbon, it will swap to another drawing, but the tab will still show that I'm in the current drawing, which is kind of awkward.
oh, when you like hover over this stuff here. And you mouse
It'll
over and
swap
it's
to that drawing, but then
Yeah.
it'll leave, or it will show that it swapped to that drawing, or it will swap to the drawing, but the tab that of the drawing that I was in
yeah, there's
previously
a command that
it's file tab preview.
thank you. Yeah.
You're welcome. I don't use that one often.
So Brian says for their firm, it usually adds, and this is way up in the comments. It says it adds the previously used projects to a shortcut history XML located. So under your C users, up in the comments to everybody, and then coming down, Brian says then removing that will fix the issue most of the time, but you lose all of your history then. And Jennifer put an Autodesk response in a 4-step process that
Yeah,
I'm
see,
not going to read.
yeah. I have
File tab
completely
thumb over was the one I was
Oh,
thinking about.
oh, you're thinking of the thumb over? Oh,
Yeah.
sorry.
So that this one will still give you a preview up here. So if you turn the thumb over off, it'll still give you a preview when you mouse over it, but it won't make the drawing area switch to it.
Oh, nice. Okay.
That's one I was thinking of.
Yeah, Joel.
Yeah, Joel. Yeah, file tab thumb over.
And Thomas says when they have it, they suspect it's a network related issue. They see it swap to layout and other drawings when we have more than one file open.
Yeah, sounds like an Autodesk issue.
So Jennifer only sent this to the host and panelists, so I will respond to everyone with what Jennifer put.
All right, Thomas, you're right. It's file tab thumb hover, not thumb over. My bad. All right, cool. I love being corrected.
It was close, man.
It was
One
close, but I totally
one
read it
letter.
wrong.
Yeah. Well, it's the
And I
H in
deserve
your-
to be called out for that one because it's
Yeah,
not
the
a thumb
H
over,
is-
it's a thumb hover.
the H is silent. Kind of like with our last names. Anyways,
Brian Ailey?
Yeah.
Get the H out.
Brian Tomasi.
Right.
Yeah, my H is silent too.
I spelled my
Oh.
name BRI3AN. The 3 is silent.
All right, so Greg got a question. I'm just going to kind of support path stuff going on here. So
Okay.
I currently have my Civil 3D users pointing to the server for support paths. I have been asked to make localized versions for those people who work at home to speed up the process. Are there any issues of using the localized versions with Civil 3D?
No. In fact, everybody in our company uses a local version for their support
Yep.
paths.
Yeah.
Right.
And case in point, in our company, we used to point to a server, and it makes things slower because it's got to go to the server to grab those support file search paths. So we actually set everything up on like a SharePoint, so that way they have access to it even without having to log into a VPN.
Yeah. So everything is local. So we have CAD support, and that's where everything points to. Now, you may be wondering, but Brian, what happens when I, as the CAD manager, need to make a change to our CAD system? Well, that's where we do things a little different. I think we do this different than you do, Brian. So, oh, look, it's done. Cool.
Nice.
So we have a separate shortcut that does not launch Civil 3D. Now, we had a reseller come in and set this up for us, but before they were doing this, it was just running a batch file. And the batch file would run a robocopy that would synchronize their local files with whatever's up on the network. So I launch Civil 3D, it does a robocopy, makes sure that my local support files match what's up on the network, and then it launches Civil 3D for me. Right. And that way, if I, as a CAD manager, need to make a change, I put the change up on the network, and the next time somebody launches Civil 3D, they get those changes copied down if they're connected to the network. If they're not connected to the network, then they're just still using the old stuff. And so that's the way we do it. So when I launch, say, for example, AutoCAD here, you'll see this little splash screen, and you can imagine this splash screen used to be just a batch file, right? And this is what it's doing. It's making sure that my local files match what's up on the network. And then once it's done doing that, then it simply launches the program. How do you do it, Brian?
Am I on mute?
No, you're not muted.
No.
Okay. The way we do it is like I was saying, we actually have a SharePoint site that everybody synchronizes to from our company.
Okay.
It's like OneDrive, so that it'll synchronize, and it's read only. So any modifications we make, as soon as they launch their computer, it syncs automatically, and
Nice.
it syncs and it pulls that data down for them. So we don't have any special batch or robocopy that happens. It just syncs directly to their hard drive regardless.
Have you ever found any issues with somebody that's in CAD when you make a change? So I don't know, I'm thinking maybe tool palettes, because tool palettes are always being overwritten.
No, because we don't. We'll do those, like I'll schedule times to make the modification to the SharePoint site, and we have it such that nobody has access to that SharePoint site, except for a select few, and even then they have to go in and change their permissions on the SharePoint site to make modifications. So like on a weekend, I'll do a scheduled maintenance update, and at that point in time I will give myself access, make the changes, and update it. We haven't had massive changes in quite some time. So
Yeah, we haven't either.
yeah, so so far it's been a great failsafe. The issues we had is when we actually had access during that time, and yeah, it was updating our tool
Right.
palettes like every moment. So yeah, by creating and putting the lock on the SharePoint site has solved all those issues.
Nice. So one thing that I do, so this is our CAD support folder. And so what I do as a CAD manager, I come into my CAD support folder and I make changes here. And I've got a shortcut where I can launch Civil 3D without synchronizing the network to my system. So it doesn't synchronize to my system when I launch it, because I'm the CAD manager and I don't want it to. So I make the changes here. And then once I'm done making the changes here, I'll go into here, and I have what I call a reverse sync. And so I will run this batch file and it copies my files up to the network. So I make a change local. Once I'm happy with those changes, I sync it up to the network. And then when the
There you
next
go.
user launches it, it downloads to their system.
Cool.
So that's the way we do it. Brian uses SharePoint. So those are a couple different options for you. But
Yeah.
this has
Joel
been
says
working
they
fantastic for us.
And Joel says they use RoboCopy, that basically when a user logs in, IT has it set up to copy the new stuff over. And Nathan says they're using SharePoint, but it's attached to Civil 3D.
Yeah.
And Thomas is saying OneDrive. So everybody's basically doing similar things.
Yeah, I actively avoid IT at all cost.
And Brian S. said there was a Autodesk University class called Programming the Work Out of CAD Management, and walks through all of it.
Oh, nice. Yeah, RoboCopy, it's an old DOS command and it still works, still going strong.
Yeah.
Cool. So Greg had a question, or do you want to go back to recap now that it's done?
Oh, yeah. So yeah, recap is done. So here it is. It's done processing, and you may be thinking to yourself, but Brian, I still see the loader and the truck and the excavator and the poles and everything. Well, that's because it's classified, but it's still just showing all the points. So down here in the bottom right, we can go in and change our classification. So you can see everything is still being displayed, but if I turn off the unclassified, now I'm just seeing the ground points. And that's pretty damn slick, in my opinion.
And Phantom Shadows.
Yeah, it's not perfect, so it looks like maybe it missed something on the top of this truck here.
Yeah, the one that they had that was in beta online for a while too was funny, because like when it would cut people out, it would leave their shoes. Or
Right.
leave like the little rubber feet of the ladders because it's like, no, I'm getting too close to the actual surface. I'm going to leave these points there.
Right. And it's not perfect, but it's a hell of a lot better than what it was.
How well does this do with vegetation, like trees and stuff?
Well, let's see what it cut out.
Well, I know, but this is like a pretty barren field. It didn't have a
Yeah,
ton
well,
of
I've got
trees.
trees and stuff over here.
Interesting.
Yeah.
You know, I've got me set up to download and install the new 24 because I haven't done that yet.
Yeah. Okay, so it does that. So if I switch this back over to just the ground points, right? I can then come over here and I can then decimate the points. So I choose decimate, extract key points to a different classification, and let's do it by approximate number of points. And again, what I like to do is I like to keep my points down to around 900,000 points.
Yeah, isn't it what, 2 million is the cap?
Cap for what?
Create an MMS file.
It's just under just under 1 million points. Unless things have changed recently.
I
So-
think things have changed because they told me that Andrew just told me that it was 2 million points, but hey, you know, I like the million point bit. I try
So
to
yeah,
set
I try to keep mine down to around
yeah.
900,000 because again,
Yeah.
why
Yeah.
are you using million points for a civil design? We're building with bulldozers, goddammit.
You know, I try to convince my engineers about that, but they and their 4 decimal places out in the field is going to get laughed at, but that's okay.
Right, exactly. So when I was a young engineer, the surveyor came up to me and said, Brian, design it to the 1,000th, stake it to the 100th, build it to the 10th.
That's right. Yep.
All right. So I've got 7,462,976 visible points. And those are the ones that are visible through this classification. Those are just the ground points. So I want to get this down to 900,000 points. So I'm going to, well, I'm not going to do 900,000 points. I'm going to do, I just brought up a calculator here. Come over. Thank you. I'm going to do 7462976 minus 900,000. Not what? 7462976 minus 900,000. So I want to put in, I'm going to move this back over. 6,562,976. And then I will decimate. And I don't remember how long this one takes. I don't think this one takes as long as the classifying.
You know, decimation is a different term for me. When
Yeah,
something gets,
on the architectural building side, we usually go in and say, hey, give it to us at like, 10 millimeters. So 3/8 of an inch-ish,
Right.
7/16.
Well, there it is. And what this has done, this has created a new classification of those key model points. So if I turn that off, those are now the points that are left over that weren't decimated out. And then I can take this, export it out to an RCS file, bring that into CAD, and create a surface from it. So I'm curious, how close did we actually get to 900,000 points? So if I choose decimate and by approximate number of points, because I'm sure it's not exactly 900,000 points.
you know, it'd be nice if it could actually segregate based on angle of slope.
It does.
Oh, it does.
Mhm.
So you can get more points over sloped areas than non.
And it's not the angle of the slope, it's how varied it is. So if it's a
Okay.
plane, even though it's really steep, well, you only need 4 points to find that plane.
That's true. Yeah.
Right?
If it's consistent throughout.
Right. So, you have 900,000 points that are now visible.
Right.
And if we take a look
like
at this,
That'll
yeah, it's
definitely
pretty
help out.
slick.
Yeah, that'll definitely help out. And you can load in old projects in this way, right? So we can start removing things because
Mhm.
if this is new with 2024, that's a fantastic feature.
Yeah.
Well, not if, it's obviously.
So yeah, and then this is still new to me. I just discovered this not too long ago. So again, trust but verify. When I said that it takes out more points if it's flat versus if it's very varied, double check me on that, please. Don't go into a project expecting that and they're like, well, Brian said I'm going to sue him, because you will lose. All right.
So Mayo has a follow-up question to that. Will decimation work with a public LiDAR in LAS or LAZ format? Can you decimate a GeoTIFF?
It needs to be a recap file. So can you create a recap file from that data? If that's the case, then yes, you should be able to. And yes, you can create a recap file from LAS and LAZ files.
Beautiful. That's good
So
to know.
yeah,
I'm gonna have to go
John,
play
my
with
data
the.
source was completely unclassified. I don't even know what the original file type was. One of my users created the recap file and then gave it to me saying, help, there's too many points. And so I don't know what this original source is. Like I said, I think this was a drone that flew the site.
Oh, I like the new decimate feature too, because we've had that for a while, but it always was like during a save as. You were doing a save as
Mhm.
a decimate. It wasn't like, hey, now I've got a classification where I can just do this. That's actually really nice.
Right. And so these are the points that it decimated out. And so, like I said, it's worth looking into, if nothing else.
All right.
Test it on a project, see if you get the results you like. Compare it to a surface created from a point cloud out of InfraWorks. See which one you like better.
All right. So Greg has a question.
Okay.
It's been a while since I've done line and curve tables, but when I have done them in the past, I place the tag numbers and the numbers jump and are not consecutive. 1, 2, 3, 4. The line tag starts off fine, but then skips a number 1, 2, 5, 8, etc. Do you have a fix for this?
Yeah. So you're using the default styles that come with Civil 3D. So whoever it was that created the default table styles for line and curves. So if I come over here, so let me create because what's going on? Come on. I'm going to create a new drawing using the default template if I can find it. It's been a while since I've looked for the default Civil 3D template. I'll just do it this way.
Yeah, I've done my best to forget about it.
I'm going to close out a recap. Maybe this will help speed things up. There we go. So I'll just set the Civil 3D. This is the default profile that comes with Civil 3D. All right, so if I go create a new drawing now, I'll use that default Civil 3D Imperial template. And we'll come over here to the settings tab. Which would you say just a regular line and curve table? So I'm assuming you're maybe using a parcel. We'll just do a line table here. And so whoever created this, I'm not going to name names. Under the data properties, decided it wasn't important to sort the data. So if you want to sort it based off of the tag number, just toggle on the sort data and then choose that column. Maybe more important, you want the short lines at the top, the long lines at the bottom. You can base this based off of column number 2 if you wanted to. I've never seen anybody do that, but you could. I've set that to 1 and it should sort for you. And then just whatever table style you're using, just go in and make that change. But again, I have no idea who created this and didn't think that sorting it was important.
Well, problem is it was a buried checkbox that they forgot themselves to check. Cool. So Max, oh, sorry, before I do that, somebody followed up. We have the same issue as Greg, but when placing the tag labels on the plan view, not in the table.
Placing the tag label. So when you're placing the tags, it doesn't do it sequentially? Corey? Correct. The only thing I can think of is if you already have tag numbers or tags with using those numbers, then it would skip them. So that would be under commands. Is it here somewhere? No, so let me create some line labels here real quick. Line curve. multiple segment.
And Greg followed up and said that was also his issue as well.
Okay. So then if I add a table, line and curve, add line tables.
And Corey followed up with when labeling multiples at the same time.
All right. So you can see if I go edit this table style, the sort data is not on. So this isn't guaranteed to be there. So like I said, I can sort this based off of the second column. Now it's shortest to longest. Again, why would you do that? I don't know. So the only thing I can think of, so if I select a tag, I can come up here and renumber tags. And then it'll say, hey, current tag number 1 is being used. I'm going to create a duplicate, or I can just skip to the next available one. So this is now L6, right? But the problem is I need to do a lot of them, and I want to get into the settings. So this is one of those catch-22 moments. The easiest way to find this command is to select a tag and run the command from here. But I want to run the command without having anything selected. So I deselect everything and it's gone. So I select something to run the command, but right. So what I want is that, again, I want to run this command without having anything selected. So I select the object, I run the command, and then I pound these. I run the command. Is it not running the command? Oh, it's doing it. All right. So you can see it incremented that one several times. Right. So if it is giving you prompts or anything, pound the escape key several million times. All right. At least twice, once to end the command and once to deselect the objects, and then just hit enter to repeat the last command. And now you get your settings. So this is where I would go check to see if maybe something odd is going in here. So I'm going to go into the settings, and the table tag renumbering and the table tag creation are two different things. So when you're creating the objects, right, this is going to be your creation. So you can see lines are starting number is at 6. I'm going to drop that back down to 1. Any new ones I want to create are going to be 1. And then when I renumber, maybe I want to renumber them starting at 101. Right. And then you have increments. So maybe it's doing the evens, right? So now I can come in here and say, hey, this is 101. This is 102, 103, 104, 105, etc. And you can see the table updates as well. So that's where I would look to see if maybe some setting is odd in one of those locations. I've not seen it myself, so I'm not sure. So hopefully that helps.
Yep. He said he'll check the settings.
Perfect.
All right, Max has a question. Currently using Civil 3D 2022. I would like to upgrade the company in the next year. Do you think Civil 3D 24 is stable enough?
We are planning on upgrading our company to 2024 this week.
I was gonna say, if you're doing it next year, do you wait for 25?
I got an opinion on that.
Yeah, but you're old and crotchety, Thomasy.
Yeah. Hey, I'm not crotchety.
I've heard you yell, get off my lawn more than one time.
I always like to wait for this at least first service pack to come out before I even consider. It's just one of those things. I mean, they never launch with it 100% perfect. I mean, we're just getting on 2024. But with the fact that there's no major advantages going up on it except for like pressure pipes. But yeah, 2024 seems to be stable in our area. 2023 has been great as long as you got all the service packs installed up to Service Pack 3, AutoCAD Service Pack 3 now, and also Map Service Pack. You've got to have all those things installed. Otherwise, you just install it out of the box and it's going to crash on you.
Yeah,
that's the way 2023 started with us. So
one of the things I like about 2024, which is kind of a niche thing, is the ability to the way SubAssembly Composer works with updating your system now. All right, so you don't have to remove it from the tool palette, remove it from the drawing, and redo. Yeah, so it's SubAssembly Composer. If you're using that, if you make a change to a PKT file, it just updates in your drawing. It's fantastic.
Yeah.
Which is one of those, well, it's about damn time.
Yep.
See, I like your theory, Thomas, of waiting for the first service pack because in Revit 21,
Mhm.
the service pack broke it.
Oh my gosh, yikes. Yeah, then as much as I gripe and complain about Autodesk, they're great. I love what they do, but nothing works perfectly the first time through, kind of a thing.
Yeah. But yeah,
I
we're
know.
planning on, of course, I was planning on updating to 2024, like at the beginning of November, but then apparently people have kids and help desk gets low on
Mm.
staff because people are out on leave because they're having kids, and then people are sick, and then somebody gets stuck in Israel, and the nerve of these people, right?
No kidding, right? What the hell? What's wrong with them? What were they thinking?
Yeah, so we're planning on updating very soon.
So we had two questions about AU. One, did you go? What did you learn? And the other one, and I'm going to follow this up with Greg because I totally agree with what Greg is saying. He said he watched the stuff online, but was surprised by the lack of user-led classes in Civil 3D. All the classes were presented by Autodesk employees and hardly any real-world users. I was disappointed with this year's AU, but want to know your thoughts. And I'm going to jump into that one because I
Yeah.
went to AU. I went to 3 classes. They were so bad. They were Autodesk people literally reading off of the PowerPoint notes that Autodesk marketing created for them that they were so
Ouch.
bad. I hung out the entire AU at the exhibit hall. It was I have felt AU has turned into Autodesk marketing and no longer
Yeah.
university. And
Yep.
yes, I looked through somebody I knew went through it who was more geeky than me, and he said he looked at it and in the Revit world, more than 65% of the classes had an Autodesk instructor in them.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you go to university to get your bachelor's degree. Well, they need to have a PhD and a master's and PhDs portion of it, so that way we can get a little bit more in tune to it. Because after you've gone to it a couple of times, things become, I don't know, it's almost better just to go there to network.
See, I felt
Mhm.
this year it was more community college worthy than even university
Oh
worthy.
gosh, that's terrible.
Yeah, I did attend one really good class. It was on taking plant 3D parts and creating pressure network parts out of them.
Yes. Yeah, I
So
heard about that.
that was a good class. I enjoyed that one. That was the best one that I attended the whole
I,
set
you
time.
you sat next to my friend Chad.
Yeah.
Oh, he's a good boy. He's a good old boy. He's
Yeah,
all,
Yeah, so
hey,
I like that class. That
yeah.
was something that was new and very interesting to me because I'd never used Plant 3D before for anything. So I've got it installed on my system now. I'm checking that out.
So yeah,
But
Greg, not something that you just noticed. I had several people comment to me about, yeah, this has been way too much Autodesk focused this year. I had several people say that to me.
yeah, I went to one class that was completely. It was one of those that I absolutely hate. You go in there and it's not on Autodesk software. It's on some other program that runs inside of Autodesk software.
All of the vendors, everybody who bought a booth got at least one session they could go present on the tools they owned.
Yeah,
And
which
or
I absolutely hated.
depending on the size of the booth they bought, they might have gotten 2 or 3.
Yeah. So I didn't leave a whole lot of reviews on classes, but I did leave a review on that one.
This is why they hired Ryan Reynolds.
Oh.
That's hilarious. Can't disagree.
No,
Nope.
when you do find those gym classes anymore, it's nice, but I have felt that like more of the classes have been, hey, look what people are doing with Autodesk software, not here's how you use Autodesk software. So
Yeah.
it's turned into my mind more of a show and tell than an actual
Yep.
learning capability.
Now, I will say that's been my feelings from the very beginning, is seeing how the industry utilizes the software. And I have asked them directly how we're supposed to be using it, because they don't show a clear flow path on best application practices, and that's why I've spent so much time doing that. And they still won't answer to that. They're always in knee-jerk reaction mode, so it's unfortunate. I just don't think the developers know the intended method. When I attended the inside the factory, a lot of individuals were in the same boat, and we had the developers around us basically saying, "Well, wait a minute, you use it this way," and I was just kind of flabbergasted with those statements and questions. I'm like, yeah, we use it this way, and they're like, well, we intended it this way, and I go, oh, well, that would have been nice to know, but then, and here's why it doesn't work that way, kind of a
Right?
thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, sorry,
Well, that is one thing I do try to tell people is that I know Haley's on the beta forum and everything, but they also do I don't forget what they're called. They're not the beta forum, but like these visioning things. And I'm on a few of them as well, where they will pull people in and say, okay, here's what we're thinking of doing. And literally it's like crappy Bluebeam, well, not Bluebeam because they can't use that tool, like PDF scratches of here's what we're thinking interface would look like. Here's tools we're thinking. What do you think about that? And you're getting in on a lot of that really early on. Well, yeah, but if you do that, that would affect me this way. And what about people who use it this way type of scenario?
Right.
So I love the way that Autodesk has been opening that up way more than they used to.
Yeah, and the Civil 3D public roadmap is available as well, so it shows you what they're working on. Doesn't necessarily tell you how it's going to be implemented, though.
Yeah. And then Simon said, compared to last year's AU versus this year, which one takes the cake?
Well, for
the
me this
venue-
year,
the
hands
venue
down.
last year was horrible, but I attended better sessions last year.
yeah.
I also just before AU last year, I had a nephew die in a midair plane crash that I had to leave early to get home for a funeral. So yeah, this year is definitely better for me.
Yeah. I know last year.
Yeah, Jennifer, this year you actually got to classes instead of trying to fight your way through the hallways to the classes. Yeah, the venue last year was horrendous, absolutely horrible.
And luckily, I missed the mugging class.
But the sessions are now available up online. So if you wanted to go see, if you go through the catalog, you can actually see the recorded sessions now instead of just the ones that they showed live.
Yeah, but the weird part too, though, is those recorded sessions, and I'm glad I'm not a speaker lately, is they make this presenters record it 3 months early.
Yeah.
So the presenters are recording it in like September, and then they submit it to Autodesk, and then they release it on the day. So that way you're not even actually seeing the live session you're in, you're seeing a pre-recorded session. So you might not get to experience the horribleness that was live. I don't know.
So I watched one live and then I went back and watched the recording, and I got to say that the live version was much better than the recording.
Well, it usually is, because that's where you get people asking the questions, and that's where you get all the other things happening.
No, I mean, just the presenter. The presenter was obviously reading a script when he was doing the recording, but not when he was doing it live.
No. See, and I was wondering if the sessions I attended, it was the inverse. Like, we already recorded this. We made a transcript of what we did during the recording, and now we're going to read the transcript, so it's the same. I don't know.
Oh, there's another question.
Hey, we got another question.
Oh, we got another question. Hey, there you go. So yeah, Max, we have 5 minutes left. So Max asked the question, do you know of a way to have dragged label styles automatically switch the leader from left to right without using grips?
Yep. So, okay. So I'm going to pull this off to the right. It's on the left. I'm going to pull this off to the left, and it's on the right.
Nah, no, that's not what he's meaning. Left justified versus right. Nice one, Brian.
What? Switch the leader from left to right without using grips.
Okay.
Is that what he's asking? I don't know.
Is it left justification or right justification? Is that the question?
Yeah,
that's. I knew that was way too easy, Max. Smart man.
All right, Max. Here, let's. Do you mind? Here, I'm going to unmute you. I'm going to allow you to talk, so you can unmute yourself if you like. No pressure, but if you don't do it, we're going to make fun of you.
All right, here I am.
Hey, Max.
Hey guys.
So what are you asking for?
All right, so we have label styles, right? And you drag a label style. It's not a label style like this, just the one you're showing here. It's actually like, let's say you're calling out a surface elevation. And you drop it on your surface, and you want to go left. You want to pull the label to the left. But now it comes up with those extra grips that you have to, because it's dragged, now you have to take that grip and push it over to the end of the label. Does that make sense?
Are you talking points? Your leader points?
No, not points, just a
Okay.
label.
Just
So
a
let me
label.
add a
Let's say
surface label in
your-
here.
Yeah, drop a surface label. Let's see. A spot elevation. Yep.
Okay. And I select it.
So the way we create them, we create them with leaders. So as in an underlined leader. So we put a line underneath it. Does that make sense?
Okay.
Yeah.
So if you were to drag this right now, the leader's at the end of the text, right?
Okay.
But
Right.
we set it up with a leader underneath the text.
Gotcha. So I think multi-leader has the, let's see. We have an
I think that's
annotative
the
on here?
problem. You
There's
tried
no
to
It's
delete
not
annotative
away
it's
on
from
not a
here.
multi-leader either. It's
Right.
actually
I was
like-
going to use a multi-leader as a, for example.
Oh, okay.
That's the
Sure.
problem, Max. You went away from the Autodesk out of the box standards, therefore it's not working properly.
Correct.
All right. So if I go edit this multi-leader style, leader structure, is there, I thought there was an option to underline.
Mm-hmm.
There is somewhere.
Underline, top line. So you want it to look more like this.
Correct. And then when you move it to the left, the text to the left, then the leader's automatically-
Gotcha.
I believe
Okay.
it can do that though.
It works with a point, but not with just general labels, label styles.
So if I come over here to, now are you adding a line or are you just underlining?
No, adding a line.
Okay.
And you're not using the underline command because
So if we set that to the text and we'll go bottom
Because of the
left to
offset from the
bottom
line to
right.
the text.
okay.
Let's turn off the silly. Oh, right. Sorry. Text. Set that to rectangular. Visibility is false. Turn off the background mask.
You forgot to do it in drag state.
I know. So it's underlined. It's not perfect. You probably want a little gap in
Yeah,
there.
yeah.
But the problem
that's
is if
fine.
I pull this off into the drag state, the underline goes away,
Correct.
right? So if I go general label styles note, right? So on the drag state, I have to set this to as composed,
Mhm.
right? And now it's really funky,
Mhm.
right? And so the question is I want the leader to attach here if it's on the left, and I want it to attach here if it's on the right. If the leader's coming off the right, right?
Now that can be done, but you'll have to do two different label styles, one for the left,
Exactly.
one for the right.
Yeah, I don't know of any other way of doing that. Because as composed, this leader goes to the composed point of the label, and the label is exactly the way it is, you know, if it's, you know, here.
If you remove the composure of it, Brian, and go to the leader of the, so remove that,
Remove.
take it back out of composed to stacked text.
Mhm.
Isn't the leader attachment is set to the middle right now? So if you
Yes.
right,
Yeah, you can set that up to bottom left or
But then you don't have the
bottom right.
line.
right, but you can put the line as part of the text itself.
Gotcha. So if I come into
Uh-huh.
the
Yeah, under
text
con-
and we come in
%U.
here and property format, we want this to be underlined.
Exactly. But there's still going to be a little gap, so it won't be 100%, and you should be able to put that
And drag state, the leader,
to the lower.
No,
Let's see it.
bottom
Yeah,
of bottom line.
yeah. You still got that gap though.
Getting closer though.
Yeah.
Yeah. But you're still gonna have that gap, and people I deal with, it's got a gap.
Yeah,
There's a
you
hole
bet.
in it. There's a hole in
Us
it.
too. Yep. Yep.
Now what I have done before is I'll put an extra space before the word note, so that way there's an extra piece of text that's underlined that's blank
Yeah.
and one below it. And so that way it just pushes it off. Oh, look at that. When there's a will, there's a way, my friend. When there's a will, there's a way.
So did you see what I did, Max?
I did see what you did. Yep.
So for those that might not have seen it, I on the drag state, I took the border and leader gap and I set it to 0.
Yep. There you go.
The only problem with that is if you have 2 lines. So
I was just going to do that exact same thing.
Yeah.
So if I say this is a note and a note,
Well, that's not going to work, but you can add a piece of text as an extra piece of text, not on the
I
same.
suppose you could
note.
also, I could also edit the label text and select that top note and say, hey, I don't want that to be underlined.
Now, I'll be honest, what we have done, and we have actually created a separate line of code, which was, we added a line, and the line was anchored to the first part of the anchor was to the bottom left of the text, and the other was the bottom right. And so
Yeah,
that
we
way,
do it. Yep.
yeah, and so if it gets longer, then the underline will get longer.
Yep. That's how we.
And that's why I did it
Okay.
originally, but you can't,
Yeah.
the leader will always attach to the left.
But,
But
yeah.
what
Or
I'm
the
saying,
leader will always
if
attach
you
to the
add
right.
another piece of text, so you have text, line, text, in the code,
Mm.
right? So now that second piece of text, because you've changed it from 0.25 to 0, now that text, the second piece of text is going to be right on the line,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
right underneath the line. So you don't get that proper nice gap.
So yeah, I think this might be the way to go.
Yeah.
I'll test it out a little bit. I'll let you
Yeah,
know
it
next.
looks like there might
next
be a
month.
little bit of an overlap here.
But that's okay.
That's fine.
Yeah.
You can't see that.
And if it's
That's
all the
that
same
thing.
line weight, it'll be the same.
Right.
Yeah.
It just looks a little funny on the screen, perhaps.
Mhm.
I'm going to
Should
run some
plot fine.
tests. Thank you. I'm going to run some tests on this.
Okay, perfect.
I'm sorry.
All
I
right.
gotta-
Well, I think that takes us to the end of the hour. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. Tell your friends, tell your family about this. Love having you all join. We had a good turnout today.
We did.
Yeah.
This was great. Thanks, everybody. I will record. We are recording this. I'll put it up on my YouTube channel
Yeah.
shortly, probably later this afternoon. So
Yes.
if you would like it, so just look for Civil 3D Plus on YouTube, and you should find my channel, and we'll go from there. So see y'all next
year.
time. Thanks, Brian.
Next-
Thanks, Brian.
ne-
Thanks, Max.
Yeah, next year.
Appreciate it all.
Next year, huh? Next year.
Yeah, next year. Wow. Stop! Don't
Yeah.
do that to me.
All right.
All right,
Thanks, everybody.
everybody, have a good time. Take care.
All right.